after the Biden-Harris administration launched its U.S.-Africa strategic agenda a little over a year ago to strengthen trade, economic, and diplomatic ties with African nations and the African diaspora, there have been a boost in activities between the U.S. and African nations, both from the private and public sector. Those activities, including trips from top Biden-Harris administration cabinet members, First Lady Dr. Jill Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, as well as Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, to the continent, are not just renewing friendships between Africa and Africans and the U.S., they are also laying the groundwork for holistic, deeper partnership that will work alongside collaborative to address mutual regional and global issues. One of the federal agencies that is tasked with moving the needles on some of these goals is the Millennium Challenge Corporation, headed by former veteran Wall Street top investment banker and former nonprofit executive and the daughter of the late Secretary of State Madeleine Albright, Alice Albright. We recently visited their office in Washington, D.C. to talk to her and her team and a group of MCC delegation from Africa about how they are working collaboratively to move the needle forward on development and infrastructure on the continent of Africa. You just returned from your trip from Africa. Talk to us about that experience and why it was important for you to be on the ground.
Sure.
And the projects for both Americans and for both Africans that are our audience, like why is it important the work that the MCC is doing in Africa? Why is that important for the US to be on the ground and the impact that it will have on Americans as well as Africans?
Lots of good questions. So just this year, I've been to Sierra Leone, Morocco, Benin, Togo, the Gambia, and Senegal. That's just since. And Lesotho was about a year ago.
Oh, that's right.
But last year I went to Lesotho twice.
Yeah.
So I've traveled a lot, and so let me answer sort of both of your questions, kind of one after the other. Well, in all of the countries that I visited, I saw a wide variety of projects, and the different countries that I were in different sort of stages of their work with us. Morocco, for example, we were closing out our work. In Benin, we were closing out a significant part of our work, but starting a regional part of our work. In the Gambia, we are in the middle of the threshold program and beginning to start the thinking on the compact. In Senegal, we had done one compact a long time ago. We're doing another compact now on electricity, which you just talked about. We're starting a regional compact. So there's many different stages and many different programs across a wide variety of sectors. And we can give you the information about what that looks like. But let me answer your two questions. One is, why is it important for partner countries? And I really feel somewhat awkward in answering that on behalf of partner countries, because the partner countries should be answering it for themselves. But from where we sit, our hope and our work is designed to help alleviate poverty through economic growth. And so all the different sectors that we work on and all the different programs are designed to move in that direction. And there's many details around that we can get into. From the perspective of the United States, why is this important? It's important for stability and security for our future and for creating opportunity for people that live here, businesses that are here. But it's really about security and stability. And you can just look around the world, and where people in any part of the world feel like they don't have a future, don't have hope, don't have opportunities, things get unstable. And so we, as part of the U.S. government's toolkit in foreign policy and development, are all about helping to create opportunity for our friends and colleagues in the countries that we work. It's all about creating opportunity.
There are still some trepidation from American investors when they look at Africa. And the question is too risky due to security issue, governance. What would be your message to American investors that are still sort of standing on the sideline, like, okay, I'm gonna wait until things get better? What would be your message to them, given your travel and what you've seen on the continent?
Well, I think it's important to start by looking at the demographics and the growth rates and where the populations are going over the world. So, in 10, 20, 30, 50 years, and the population growth rates in many countries on the continent are higher than anywhere else in the world. And so over time, the vast majority of people in the world are going to be from the continent. And not only the number of people, but every time I come back from a trip, I am taken by the energy, the innovation, the excitement, the amount of building that's going on. So there's a huge amount of opportunity that is going to emerge over the course of the coming years in the continent. And we see that already. I was just, of course, in Dakar a few days ago, and the amount of building that's going on there. I mean, there's construction cranes, across the skyline there. So any business that is looking to be successful internationally should go where the opportunities and where the growth is occurring. And it's clearly a part of that story is on the continent. Now, depending on what sector you're looking at, what industry, there are issues that have to be confronted. There are, possibly regulatory issues. There may be lack of financing issues. There may be all kinds of, commercial and economic challenges to be overcome. And I would encourage, and those may be valid concerns. They may not be valid concerns, but I would encourage businesses to really look widely at the opportunities, but then also look widely at the tools that certainly the U.S. government has to help address risks where risks exist. So there's the DFC, the Development Finance Corporation, for example, that does a lot of work around risk mitigation. There's also, I think, some very important work going on in an area that we call project preparation, which is, there's a whole agency here called the U.S. Trade and Development Agency. You know about them, that helps projects sort of communicate and prepare themselves for what is undoubtedly a very rigorous sort of evaluation and analysis process by companies. That's very helpful because companies can then look at the opportunities and say, I want to invest in this and invest in this. So there are issues to overcome, but the companies that are really going to succeed over the coming years are the ones that are going to see the inherent opportunity and the energy and the talent on the continent. I mean, it's incredibly every place I've been, get a sense of vibrancy. Yeah. So it's great. The more, you guys have been here for a long time. I've only been here for, 15, 18 months, something like that. So I'm still sort of learning about the place. And the more that I travel and visit with different MCA colleagues, what's really clear to me is that the secret sauce of MCC is the relationship that MCC has with the MCAs. And that collaboration around all of the technical issues, the communications issues, the finance issues, the advocacy opportunities. It's that relationship that's like the secret sauce. And very few other organizations that work in the international development arena, if any, work like this.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's really, it's secret. It's amazing. Yeah. So it's a great honor for us to get to work with all of you. Truly. Yeah. I've learned so much from every one of my visits and spending time with all of our MCA friends.
When you look around this room, we have half of the half of the people in this room are women. Your mother, the former secretary, Madeleine Albright, is the champion for women. So I have to ask you, looking around this room and seeing women on the forefront of developments on the continent of Africa. And I've also met some people from other regions, other continents. Talk to me about that, the impacts of a legacy and with the work that you're also doing.
Well, we are delighted to work with everybody, but what we do see is that in many countries, and it exists in here in the United States too, women and many other parts of society are not given the opportunities that they deserve. So it's very heartening to see how many women are here continuing to play a role in the advancement of their countries. And Mom would have been delighted. She was the best mom and the best grandma anybody could want, but she was very, very concerned about involving women in the decision making and the talent base and the future of whatever country they're from. And she would be delighted to see how many women are here, and she would love to spend time with all of you.
Yeah.
We still ask that you let the teams come often.
Okay.
Because we also get to learn a lot from the expertise of the MCC colleagues. And when they keep coming to our countries, there's a lot to learn from them. Give you an example. We meet.
So we have a lot to learn from you too.
As well, yes. Yeah, so it's a mutual,
a lot,
right?
yeah.
Mutual, yeah. And
No, it's
so we always insist, Jessica, team, Lee, and everybody else, they need to keep coming.
okay.
So that there is no gap,
Okay.
Sometimes as communicators, people think communication is an
One-off?
addendum,
No,
like one-off.
I don't.
Yeah, it's not fully integrated into the programs. And we tell them, look, when you're starting development and everywhere, we have to be part of the team. And we have to be part of the process. We don't just tell the story, we need to understand the story. I need to understand what the challenges that infrastructure goes through. I need to understand what social and gender inclusion is struggling with. I need to understand the story of ESP. And I need to understand the story of involuntary resettlement. Whether you're using performance standard number 5, whatever it is, I need to understand it. And once I understand it, then I can support the team. So really, what you've said, the glue, I worked for State Department before I joined MCC. The model is different. I feel part of the process. Yeah. At the embassy, it was different. It was a bit detached. But
No, but I could
nice,
not agree with you more.
Established by Congress in 2024, Millennium Challenge Corporation served as a blueprint for interagency cooperation to leverage partnership to advance global development by catalyzing private sector capital investment for public goods. It works in complementary with other federal agencies like U.S. Development Finance Corporation, USAID, U.S. Trade Development Agency, U.S. Exim Bank, as well as other agencies to really create a holistic investment U.S. approach. And it does this by employing locals on the ground. It is not your typical federal agency. Since its launch, it has invested over $7 billion across over 20 African countries, trained over 400,000 farmers, provided access to financing and credits, developed highways, provided technical training on equipment, developed water and sanitation projects, invest in core policy and institutional reform. And through all of this, through MCC, the US is sending key messages to African nations of its commitment to economic development on the continent, democratic governance, economic freedom, and investing in the African population. MCC provide an opportunity to maximize US trade and investment in Africa.
I think for us, working with the team here at Millennium Challenge Corporation, especially the Congressional Public Affairs team, makes it easy for us to tell the story of international development. This is where we are receiving support from the American government, to address some of the inhibiting factors to economic growth. I'll give you examples. We are currently working in the area of agriculture in Zambia, knowing that we have a lot of potential in agriculture, but there is no infrastructure to support agro production and agro productivity. So women who are running in small farms cannot, produce more and be able to send the products to the market because there are no roads. The infrastructure to support production and productivity is not there. But the American government comes in then to inject capital, for infrastructure development, to build roads, to build border points, and to open up markets. That helps alleviate poverty for the poor woman, alleviates poverty for a young entrepreneur who has no access to finance because they're going to receive grants under the same finance. There are cases where people did not have water, but now they have water in their households. Young girls had to travel kilometers to go and draw water, but now the story is different. They are getting water in their household, meaning they can spend more time on books, study. They can spend more time on productive economic activities. That's what this funding does. This is a story of transforming people's lives. It's not just an abstract story. It's a life that impacts on the changing faces of human experience.
Visiting the White House today, why is that? Talk about our experience and why being here is important to the work that you're doing. Like in Africa right now, across Africa, we have the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement that you're working on. We have AGOA that will be taking place in South Africa. The U.S. focus, this strategy is more on, building the trade and business tie with the continent. So, what would your overall message, if you talk about your experience being at the White House and your overall message to both Americans and also Africans about the U.S. government relations? I mean, you're on the forefront.
Yeah.
You're on the front line of this. So, talk about that.
So I can go first. So thank you. As I said, I'm from Zambia. Visiting the White House, for me, the White House is a center of power. It's symbolic in that the leader of a big country, a very prosperous country, and a country that has committed to international support through MCC, through PEPFAR, through USAID. So there are so many angles through which they have supported international development. Visiting the White House for me and listening to the press team, the one thing you get is that diplomacy is development, and development should be diplomacy. And every American dollar that is sent to us is one that goes to changing people's lives. It's real lives that you are touching. It's medicine, it's water, it's agriculture. So generally you are looking at energy, economic growth, and eradicating poverty through development. That for me is the message I get. And Americans must realize that the support that they give from their budget to these countries that are developing and that are promising goes to develop the democracies that are needed for development, but goes to change people's lives. And that is what changes the sentiment about the American people.
Yeah, my takeaway from being here is that it's a very open workspace and people are young. I was surprised they were so young.
Yeah.
And so open about what they do and how they do it with respect and having professional relationships with people on the same ground. It's really eye-opening.
Yeah.
Like, I'm from a French-speaking country, so we like a lot of, you need to go through that person to get to that person to get to that person.
Procedure, protocols.
And I think that they do have protocol, but it's so streamlined and so easy to grasp that it's really eye-opening.
Respect and trust that they have for journalists, working with them as partners, and they can walk in and walk out to get the story to the public. That for me is a good takeaway. It's amazing stuff.
I want you to talk. You are all from various African countries, and you've been here for over a week now, participating in these events. So I would like you guys to share with us, our audience, what you've been doing in the U.S. in this program, what your experience has been, and how it will benefit the various work that you're doing on the continent regarding development.
Ok, so je suis Sofiane du Sénégal et je suis là depuis une semaine. Nous sommes en train de travailler sur différentes problématiques qui ont trait à notre cœur de métier, qui est le fait de raconter des histoires, de partager, d'augmenter la notoriété de nos programmes. Donc, on a travaillé sur différents topics qui sont vraiment pertinents à notre travail de tous les jours. Et ce que je vais ramener chez moi en rentrant, c'est vraiment le network de collègues et d'amis que j'ai eu à rencontrer et les relations qu'il y a entre nous pour nous permettre de tous ensemble représenter le MCA de notre pays d'une manière accurate.
Well, yep. Okay, I thought you were going in. For me, I mean, we are all. My name is John Kunda, and I'm from Zambia. And what is interesting is that, as my sister there, she says, my uncle, we come from different backgrounds and different countries. Some countries are stable, others have political instability in some sense. But what is interesting is learning from each other on how best to tell the development story. Because we are in the forefront of telling the story of development. And this is a diplomatic relationship between the American government and the Zambian government, for example, or the relationship between the American government and other countries. I've had the opportunity to meet people from other continents. You know, we've seen people from Mongolia, you know, people from Nepal. They all receive the same support, and they tell the story to a different audience. Even within Africa, there's diversity, there's crisis communication. There are countries where there's uncertainty at the political level. And then I come from Zambia, where we had a good political transition. So how do we best tell the story? And telling that story about the impact of investments and support. That is what I was learning from colleagues here. Just learning from the different expertise and resources that we have. I'm sure others can add.
Yeah, sure. I'll add. My name is Abdel Diallo. I'm from Niger. I'm going English for my friends here. Yes, so that week was exceptional for us and learning, meeting with different colleagues, putting the face on the names that my colleagues said here, and just sharing our experience. Like you said, we had the colleagues from Niger, we had the colleagues from Africa, the colleagues from Latin America, all sharing. That was very important. As you know, Niger is an ongoing crisis, so we also had to discuss that and get to learn from the different experience from the different countries. So yes, what I would take away back to Niger is the best practices and directives to be able to communicate our message better and to a broader audience.
Okay, my name is Palesa Mujeleng. I'm from the Mountain Kingdom of Lesotho. For me, this has been very special. I've been with this program for about 3 years now. And at first, I felt like I didn't have much support. I didn't know where to touch, who to talk to. But then gradually, we had our communications colleges. They were online, virtual, due to a lot of challenges during COVID-19. It was very helpful. But this time, seeing everyone connecting names, like it's a priceless experience. And knowing that there are people you can count on whenever there are difficulties, whenever you're not sure about anything, because communications can be rather challenging at times. You need people to say, okay, now I want to get this thing out, and you're like, people don't understand your standpoint. And when you have colleagues, you can run it through them and see their views, and then you are able to go. And we have been equipped a lot, with skills that will help us move. For me, we are about to enter into falls. So that is going to require a lot of communications, a lot of storytelling, and media is going to be very much interested. So part of the training included a lot of media engagements, how we can go about it. So it was very important and helpful. It will help us.
Je vais aller en français. Je m'appelle Elsie Corridou, je représente le Bénin. Je vais dire que ce Communication College est pour le Bénin une expérience très intéressante parce que nous avons la possibilité de pouvoir partager ce que nous avons reçu de MCC depuis 2006. Nous avons eu l'opportunité depuis 2006 de bénéficier des accords de dons de MCC sur plusieurs compacts, sur le compact de l'électricité, sur le compact du foncier et aussi sur le renforcement du port autonome de Cotonou. Et aujourd'hui, nous avons un financement sur le transport routier et nous aimerons partager nos expériences que nous avons eues en tant que responsables de l'équipe de communication au niveau du Bénin, mais aussi de pouvoir gagner en fait de nos collègues du Lesotho, du Niger. Le Niger aussi est en train de finir un compact de 6 ans, donc une grande expérience. Donc nous avons gagné beaucoup d'expérience de ces différents compacts qui nous permet aujourd'hui à nous de pouvoir d'avoir des armes pour être aguerris à faire le travail sur le compact régional. Puisque le compact régional va bientôt démarrer, vraiment la mise en œuvre, nous avons bénéficié aujourd'hui de beaucoup d'éléments pour avoir une stratégie de communication forte en respectant les normes de MCC, mais en mettant en œuvre, en permettant aux gens de savoir ce que MCC a fait pour le Bénin jusqu'à maintenant. Merci beaucoup.
My name is Pinda Samora from Sierra Leone. The training has been successful. What I admire the most is how we came from different countries, different regions, but how we are able to blend together. We are communicating respectfully, and our colleague here, John, made it so interesting. And the trainers, we are so respectful. We pass on the messages clearly. Everyone can understand without any struggle to understand the messages. We brought in different people from different departments who can pass on the message to us in a clear and accurate manner. And what I will take home is to pass on the message to others, because when you learn, it's not only for yourself, to tell others the story. And we have been taught how to pass on the information accurately, not only with words, but also sometimes with symbols or pictures, where words will not be able to be told or written. And also to take advantage of the communication sector, where you cannot live vacuum, where journalists or other media outlets can take advantage and tell our story on our behalf, where they can be informed. But if we step in the picture and tell our story ourselves, we know the choice of words to use, as we have been taught here, how to relay the message, how to take into consideration the impact our message will have on the audience. And also, I've been one-on-one session with my colleagues here. We maybe create a WhatsApp group where we will keep in touch. So it has been one lifetime experience.
Fantastic. Well, okay. She's still thinking. And I was going to say, the one thing that is common, I think, amongst all of us, that behind the infrastructure is a real face of a woman, a young person, a man. It's real people behind. So we were told about telling the story using the impact model. Why are you doing it? Why are we doing it? That is the real story. And I think for me that's a great takeaway. Learning from my colleagues here, even those in threshold programs, it's great. So, yes, my friend.
présenter, je crois que tu veux présenter.
Oui, je suis Catherine Ndiayouli. Je viens du Togo. Qu'est-ce que je dois encore ajouter à part ce que les camarades ont dit? Et je suis la chargée de communication d'un petit programme, les programmes d'entrée qui sont les programmes seuils, qu'on appelle en anglais threshold. Donc je retiens essentiellement que nous sommes les combattants du développement de la communication, comme Madame la CEO l'a dit la dernière fois. Nous sommes devant et on dit en communication, si tu ne dis pas ce que tu fais, une autre personne dira ce que tu ne fais pas. Donc nous avons eu encore les outils pour pouvoir mieux parler, pouvoir jouer notre rôle, surtout quand on n'a pas tout le temps l'opportunité de partager ce qu'on doit faire avant de communiquer, comme dans mon cas où je suis seule dans mon département, comme beaucoup de très choses, je crois. Donc on a quand même eu les outils et on sait désormais à qui s'adresser aussi. Et à part ce que nous avons appris ici, on sait désormais à qui s'adresser quand on a un souci particulier, on veut partager. Parce que à la communication, on n'a pas droit à la faute. Je dis toujours à mes camarades que non seulement je reconnais que je fais un travail très gratifiant, c'est très gratifiant le travail que nous faisons. Toi, si le directeur projet, le travail qu'il fait, personne ne sait. Mais moi, le travail que je fais, tout le monde le sait. C'est parce que c'est visible. Voilà, c'est très gratifiant, mais nous n'avons pas droit à la faute. Donc, c'est tellement sensible, le poste que nous avons, le travail que nous faisons est tellement sensible. Donc, nous avons besoin effectivement de renforcer nos capacités, d'être sûrs de ce que nous faisons avant que ça ne sorte. Et j'ai eu cette chance ici, et par le Communication College, d'avoir des outils et on sait désormais aussi que ça va continuer quand nous allons rentrer. Ces échanges vont continuer. Maintenant qu'on sait, on a les noms sur les visages, on sait à qui s'adresser et c'est parfait. Et on aimerait que ça se passe encore plus souvent et que aussi en face de nous, que nos homologues et le service de communication, les CPA aussi parlent aussi de temps en temps de l'importance aussi de la communication à nos supérieurs. Voilà, qu'on continue par parler de l'importance de la communication pour que parfois la communication ne passe pas comme si c'était une option. Un jour, j'ai dit à un collègue, la communication n'est pas une option. Donc, considère que nous sommes ensemble, nous nous tenons par les mains, nous sommes en synergie pour que le travail que nous faisons, le développement pour lequel nous sommes là, que ça se passe bien et que ce soit bien visible. Merci, j'ai été long.
You've got the gist of the story? Where that's our learning experience from this college, what's our takeaway? Okay, yeah. So I think, so
I'm the last.
as a country.
I'm the last?
Yes.
No, we just got having a conversation.
Wow.
Yeah.
Je vais aller en français. Je m'appelle Ayub Bassoum, je suis le directeur de la communication de MCA Sénégal 2. Alors, ce collège me renforce dans ma décision d'avoir bien voulu rejoindre MCA. Parce que tout simplement, j'ai beaucoup appris et on voit également les profonds changements que produit MCC, les compacts de MCC. Et ces changements continuent toujours de se produire après les premiers compacts. J'en ai eu l'expérience parce que j'avais travaillé dans un projet qui s'était inspiré en partie d'un projet d'un volet du premier compact au Sénégal. Et c'était sur la réforme foncière. Nous avons travaillé là-dessus en nous inspirant de l'expérience de MCC. Et après cela, un autre projet également a été bâti sur la base de l'expérience que nous avions eue. Et c'est presque aujourd'hui un nouveau projet projet qui est construit à partir de cela pour presque 100 milliards de francs CFA. Donc, pour dire que MCC vraiment apporte des changements profonds sur la vie des communautés et ces changements continuent toujours de se produire bien après le compact. Et l'autre chose que je tire vraiment de ce collège, c'est que ça décloisonne, ces rencontres décloisonnent les compacts et MCC. Donc ça enlève les barrières. Donc, comme on l'a dit, ça nous permet de nous voir, de nous connaître et de développer des familiarités qui puissent nous permettre vraiment de travailler à réussir ensemble. Parce que nous tous, nous avons un seul objectif, c'est vraiment réduire la pauvreté par la croissance économique. Voilà ce que j'avais à dire comme contribution. Maybe I'll just summarize it in English, so for you guys. No, I was saying that I'm really I'm now proud of my decision to join the compact in Senegal. I know that when I wanted to come, so some people were telling me, hey Ali, why are you going to join the compact? It's so risky, and the Americans are very complicated. Maybe they are right. No, I'm joking.
Yeah.
But the complication is really related about it is related to the procedures, to transparency, some issues like that.
I'm going to ask you, Lee. You are the managing director,
Yes.
and you put this whole event together. Talk to us about this.
Well, it's my team who put the event together, so I'll give credit where due. But yes, Lee Sadler with the public affairs team at the Millennium Challenge Corporation, and one of the functions of our department and my team is to provide guidance and support to the communicators in the countries where we work. The MCC model is unique in that we do not send a bunch of Americans and U.S. government employees and staff into countries. We help to fund and staff the implementing entities in each of the countries for those programs, and those programs need communicators. So making sure that those individuals across the entire MCC portfolio have a network amongst each other is what the Communications College is intended to be. It provides some guidance around the agency policies and rules that we have to work within, but truly is an opportunity for us to learn from each other. I think there was some recognition across all of the participants from the 18 different countries that participated in the last 4 days that their situation might feel unique, but it is not. That they have colleagues in other countries, in other parts of the world that have a very similar challenge in how to engage audiences, how to overcome skeptics, how to create advocates, and not just to be able to feel good about the stories that we're telling, but for the people that are benefiting from these programs to truly understand the opportunities before them. And sometimes it is a long road where we sign a program after years of working on it, and it will be years before an electricity transmission line is erected and households get access, or a water pipe is constructed and households get access. Sometimes it's in policy and institutional reform, which you can't see and feel and touch. And it's all of these people's jobs to communicate why that is of benefit and to support their government's ability to be responsive to their own people. So I think we've established and understood a growing recognition of the importance of communication. And this is a group that can support one another in doing that to their best ability with the resources that they have.
Why is it important that you mentioned that you don't bring in your own group? Why is it important that you use the people on the ground? Oftentimes, when people go in for projects and development projects, they bring in their own group. Why you're different? Why is it important that rather than bringing your own group in, you're training the people on the ground? Why is that important to the work that you're doing?
MCC will soon, in January, celebrate our 20th anniversary. At the beginning of MCC being developed as an agency, it was understood that in order for development to be effective and sustainable, it cannot be our ideas imposed. It needs to be a conversation based on data. So the process goes through rigorous analysis of what is holding back economic growth, and that then defines what the investment is in. The expectation that the US government has the right people here in the US that can travel there and know the in-country context and the sectors we understood when the agency was created was a misapplication of best resources used. The intent is both to help build capacity of how things can be done differently in the development space and to create those opportunities in country. The MCAs often are 70, 80 people of professional staff of country nationals of that country, which is much more valuable and effective than sending US government employees over there to manage the funds. So the country ownership tenet of MCC, the agency is built on data and analysis, on transparency, on country ownership, makes it, I think, effective and sustainable over time. And in that 20 years, MCC has seen initial country partners having subsequent programs. Now regional is an authority that we have where we're exploring regional programs, and all of that can benefit from previous engagements where we have had a presence. And the government has had the experience of how to work with MCC, not to just work with MCC, but to have more efficiencies within their own governments in order to implement donor programs or other infrastructure projects in order to benefit their populations.
Yeah. Last week, the Senate Foreign Community, Senate Foreign Relation Committee had a hearing with the Assistant Secretary of State, Molifi, and they are urging the administration regarding some of the security challenges that we've had in West Africa and in the Sahel. And they are urging the administration to reassess security policy, the U.S. security policy on the continent. We have someone from Nigeria. We know the recent situation regarding the coup. Given you've been on the ground for over 20 years, how do you address challenges like that? How do you work within that challenges to still deliver on what you're doing? Do you abandon the projects or do you find a way to rework to continue that project? If you can talk about.
So the way MCC, the model is based on both merit and need. So need being the income capacity or the income pool of the country is deemed by the World Bank, low and low middle income countries, but also based on merit, which is established by our scorecard. It's a 20 indicator scorecard that measures economic freedoms, control of corruption, civil liberties. It's all third-party data that is compiled across a variety of international economic indicators, and it gives us a scorecard that puts countries into certain pools of eligibility that then our board ultimately decides who's eligible. So that's something that happens on an annual basis. Each early November, we release the next year's scorecards, and that will deem where MCC can and should invest. From a location standpoint, the projects themselves are then defined by the data that's done. From a security standpoint, one of the things that I think MCC does a great job at is it respects the sovereignty of individual countries and the decisions that those democratically elected governments make about the trajectory of their country. And if that deviates from MCC's eligibility, it is not our place to redirect, but there are consequences for MCC funds being available in an instance where the democracy is in question. And we've seen that in some cases in really difficult decisions in Burkina Faso earlier this year and in Niger, where MCC's eligibility criteria does require us to suspend or to terminate a program. But we are always focused on working with the people of that country. It's not just about the government that is or is not in power. It's about benefiting the population and helping to unlock that economic growth. So we're always open to conversations and looking for opportunities to be able to pursue and continue relationships with countries, especially when we've had a program that we've had to suspend or to terminate.
Okay. I'm going to turn it to you. How do you're on the ground, and how do you navigate the challenges that your country is facing right now?
Yes, so we adapt to the situation. We consult with our colleagues with MCC here at the headquarters. We follow the directives. Currently, that means adopting a low profile, but continuing the activities that have already been engaged to finalize the first bilateral contacts that is due to close out on January 2024. So that's what we're doing right now, following directives, and we are working together and also with the rest of the U.S. government scope over there to see how we would like to materialize maybe some of the work that we've done and what we can do perhaps for the closeout. So it's a work in progress. We're adapting every day. But yes, it's challenging, but challenges are meeting them.
It's doable.
It's doable.
It's doable.
But it's also interesting. Sorry, I was going to chip in quickly. It's not just in situations of extreme situations of a coup. We had a similar situation in Zambia in the first compact, where MCC did raise concerns about our governance issues, certain elements of governance. And I remember the Minister of Finance, one Alexander Chkwanda, saying, this demand by MCC for good governance is good for us. So good governance is good for us. It's not a bad thing. It's like someone telling you that this medicine is good for you. And if it's really good medicine, it's good for you.
Mhm.
So even if it's being sung by the Americans or it's being sung by our local people, good governance is good for development.
With Africa having 20 of the best economic in the world in 2024 and 2023, the opportunities between US and Africa are endless.